Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my brand new Superman movie teaser that James Gunn just released of Krypto, the Superdog. That's right, they're doing Krypto during the movie. I think we knew this for a while, but this is him just confirming it. There have actually been a couple live-action versions of Krypto that you probably remember, so we'll break it all down and what he's doing in the movie, because there is another connection to the Supergirl movie with Millie Alcock that's going to be happening in the next couple years. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. The reason why we're starting to get some actual teasers for the movie is because New York Comic Con is happening the week that I'm posting this video, and we're probably going to get the first real big trailer before the end of the year. But the whole idea here is that James Gunn wanted to show a picture of him based on the comics just to reveal that he would be in the movie, what he's going to look like. Like, this is actually meant to be a scene from the movie. If you haven't seen them before, there was a live-action version of Krypto on Titans created by Cadmus Labs to explain where he got his powers. Most versions of Krypto do have powers, but he has various backstories depending on where you see him. There was a version of Krypto who appeared during Superman and Lois Season 2 on Bizarro's world as their family pet, but because it's Bizarro's inverse universe, he's a cat because I guess cats are the opposite of dogs, and his name is Odoperic, which is Krypto spelled backwards. In the other live-action version that most people think of when they think of Krypto was on Smallville. Tom Welling's Superman did have a dog, but he wasn't meant to be a version of Krypto. A lot of people just confuse him for Krypto. His name was Shelby on that show, and he did have powers. People used him for experiments involving the kryptonite meteor fragments, which was the big trope of the Smallville series, is that most of the villains of the week got their powers from kryptonite fragments. There were a couple exceptions, like there were people that were living on Smallville's Earth that already had powers or abilities or magic before Superman showed up, or they came from other worlds like Supergirl came from Krypton, Darkseid, other cosmic beings. But the idea is that this is the first time that Krypto will be featured in like the main live-action Superman movie. All the big Superman movies, including Henry Cavill's Superman in the Man of Steel movie, swerved on Krypto. It's not clear if Zack Snyder ever intended on doing a version of Krypto in his version of Man of Steel 2. But I don't think that he was featured during Henry Cavill's version of Man of Steel 2 that he'd been pitching to the studio before he was recast by James Gunn with the big DC Studios reboot they just did, with this new version of the Superman movie that we're talking about right now. Henry Cavill's version of Man of Steel 2 mostly involved the Brainiac character. They just did a couple animated movies with Krypto, like the Battle of the Super Sons. They also just did a whole movie based on the concept of the Justice League's pets, called the League of Super Pets. The only part of that movie that I watched was like the very end, just because of the whole Black Adam rock of it all. That movie predated James Gunn by a couple of years. It came and went before his tenure at DC or his big reboot. It was greenlit a long time ago and wound up coming out around the same time of the Black Adam movie, which is why they made such a big deal about the scenes of The Rock, who played the voice of Krypto in that movie. And they had the weirdest end credit scene with Black Adam's dog facing off with Krypto, seemingly engineered to set up the live-action version of the Black Adam post-credit scene, where Henry Cavill's Superman teased the face-off with Black Adam in the sequels that they had planned to that movie. But that was part of the previous regime at Warner Brothers, with like a whole different 10-year plan involving Henry Cavill's Man of Steel 2 in a bunch of other Justice League movies with the Zack Snyder version of the characters from the DCEU. It was also tied up in the drama of The Rock trying to change the hierarchy of power at DC Studios. You might remember the drama around that, with him basically trying to hijack things and make the DC universe revolve around Black Adam more.
Now what you're going to see here is why the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Oh, I smell what you're stepping in. The power in the Marvel universe is about to change forever.
Spoiler warning, the hierarchy of power did wind up changing, just not in the way that The Rock wanted. James Gunn was hired, then fired most of those actors. Deadpool literally just made fun of that during Deadpool and Wolverine. But like I said, the big deal here is that this is the first live-action version of Krypto in the main Superman movie, like the main Justice League DC Studios universe. James Gunn said the reason why he put Krypto in the movie is he was inspired by his real-life new dog, Uzo, who he adopted as a rescue dog while he was in the process of developing the Superman movie. You can read his full post about the circumstances for how he adopted that dog. Like a lot of rescue dogs, they were living in horrible, horrible conditions. Like, it was terrible. And through the long process of rehabilitating his dog, slowly getting it used to being around people again, becoming less wild, he was inspired to put Krypto in the Superman movie. I don't know if that means that Krypto during this new movie is also going to be kind of wild when Superman finds him, or if he's going to have been living with Superman for a while. just because this isn't meant to be an origin story kind of movie. The actual comic book panel that James Gunn posted that inspired this particular scene in the movie is actually from Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman #6, and it's exactly what you see in the teaser, just the two of them chilling out, enjoying themselves, watching the Earth rotate, sitting on the moon. Because they both have powers, the low-gravity environment, like the zero-oxygen environment, is no big deal for them. That's also the reason why you see Krypto's left ear floating above his head, like all floopy, because they're in the moon's lower gravity, so he's near weightless. The actual look of Krypto makes it look like they're going more inspired by the classic comics and a bit of more of a crossbreed in present day. This scene should also answer the next question a lot of you have, whether or not he's going to have powers in the movie. He does, apparently, like he'd need a helmet if he didn't have powers. There was actually separate footage that we got earlier this year of Mr. Terrific running down the street with a box of dog treats in the middle of a big action scene, so it seems like Krypto will be part of whatever is going on here, just attacking villains during the movie. The other interesting thing about Mr. Terrific, zoom and enhance, notice he has a Lord Tech symbol in the middle of his chest. This is like a Lord Tech ad on one of the buildings nearby, so in the context of the movie, it seems like he owns an electronics corporation that makes a lot of technology. My guess is that Mr. Terrific just uses a lot of his technology to build a lot of his own special Mr. Terrific specific tech like his T-spheres. And even though I wasn't really thinking about this, somebody did ask James Gunn the follow-up question, and no, Krypto will not talk like a human in the movie unless you count barking as talking, according to him. It would be a little weird if Krypto did talk in Superman's head. The other important connection between what's happening here in the new Superman movie with Krypto and the upcoming DC Studios movies is Millie Alcock's Supergirl movie. Her movie is going to adapt the plot of the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic book, and during that story, Krypto is featured heavily. So it's possible that after the Superman movie, Krypto joins Supergirl in her movie on another side of the universe. He probably won't talk more about that till after the Superman movie actually comes out next summer. There have been several different origin stories for Krypto in the TV shows, animation, in the comic books across the eras. The Titans version, Shelby from Smallville, were both created on Earth. A lot of the other versions, including the classic versions of Krypto, were from Krypton, and they were just Superman's family dog before his pod came to Earth, and eventually Krypto made his way to Earth too. Inside the most recent DC Rebirth continuity of the comics, his collar is also made from one of the belts of Superman's old costumes in the Fortress of Solitude, which is how it can withstand the enormous pressures of all the stuff that Krypto does. Typically, they've just been putting Krypto in all kinds of different Superman-related comics, too. Like, he doesn't always show up in the Superman comics. Sometimes you'll see him in the Supergirl comics and other related comics. This is actually our first actual look at Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor in all of his bald glory. It looks like he cut himself shaving a couple times, or maybe he was in the middle of a fight scene and that's why he got cut. Fun fact, too, someone actually spotted this on set as part of the set decoration in the background. I don't know if we'll actually see this in the context of the movie or if it's just going to be blurry in the background. But it's meant to be the history of Metropolis based on lore taken directly from the Atlas of the DC Universe lore book that was published a long time ago. I just did a larger video on that first look at Superman with the trunks and some of the Easter eggs that we spotted around set. Like, there's all kinds of Easter eggs for comic book creators and people in the lore and the history of Superman in real life. I am sure there's going to be a billion Easter eggs like this across the entire movie. Like, my breakdown Easter egg video will have to be 2 hours long just to fit everything in. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. I'm sure we'll get some more teasers for the Superman movie pretty soon, so of course I'll do videos for whatever James Gunn winds up releasing or other big announcements about the characters or what's happening with the villains. I just did a much bigger video about the evil Superman clone that he's supposed to be fighting during the movie that looks kind of like Ultraman, like he has the giant U on his chest, so I'll post a link for that at the end of this. It sounds like this evil Superman that Lex Luthor is going to create, if that's the case, is just going to be a mid-boss. In fact, the funny thing, this actually might sound familiar because they used a very similar plot for the Superman Doomsday movie back in 2007.
Superman? Supermen. He's harvesting Supermen.
Evil Superman? Not on my watch.
Essentially, during that movie, it starts out as like a regular Superman versus Doomsday kind of story. He's thought to have died. Lex Luthor uses the opportunity to take Superman's DNA and clone him a bunch of times, does all kinds of sick, twisted, messed up stuff, playing with the clones, torturing them. one of them kind of goes mad, winds up escaping, turns into kind of an evil, unchained version of Superman. Then the regular version of Superman is found to have survived Doomsday, has to come back and stop this evil Superman clone. If you haven't watched a lot of those older animated movies, some of them go really hard, like they're really good. DC's always had really solid animated stuff. And a lot of the live-action movies and TV shows wind up cribbing from those animated movies. Early theory right now is that Lex Luthor would just turn him loose, he might lose control of him, he'll go full Homelander on the Earth, and David Corenswet will have to stop him somehow. Even though he's a clone, he'd have the exact same power level as the regular Superman, so it'd be like Superman versus unhinged Superman. If there's anything else you spotted or any references in the first looks that we got so far that I didn't talk about in this video or my last video, just write them below in the comments. And speaking of Superman adjacent stories, we literally just got the Thunderbolts trailer in the Marvel Universe with their version of a Superman, the Sentry character. Click here to watch that, learn all about what's going on with the Sentry inside the MCU. I know people would love to see Henry Cavill play the Sentry in the MCU, but that's not going to happen. And click here to learn about Henry Cavill coming back to the MCU as another character after Deadpool and Wolverine, because he is coming back. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.